Hi everybody, today as you can see I'm Lorraine from Draw Paint and Create, and we're going to do some cockatoos. Currently I am being very naughty and doing the background directly onto the canvas, which I do on a regular basis. I've already drawn up using the system that I have, the grid system, the cockatoos. Now I'm essentially just trying to put some of the background in. Now the reason I'm doing the background first is purely and simply because I want the cockatoos, galahs, whatever you'd like to call them, to actually come out of the background. Like, I don't want them in a tree, I don't want them, doing what they would do generally. I just want them coming out of the background, and we're doing it with a relatively big brush. I'm using, I already have marked out on the canvas the A3. Now I am leaving the basic outline, putting in a few other colours just to make it a little bit lighter. I will eventually not have this running straight. As you can see it there, it's running straight across. I will eventually kick it in. Now, I've done it a little bit over the cockatoos, purely and simply to give me something to stick to. The canvas is not brilliant when it comes to, sticking. Now, we're using a yellow ochre for this to make it stand out. Now, I have all of these closed and they are just there with the cockatoos. You can do them open or get yourself some samples of cockatoos and go from there. It really doesn't matter which way you do them. I will be doing all of the block colours, so all of the yellow on all three birds, all of the beaks on all three birds, and possibly the eyes because they are black. But then I will do the individual birds as they go, because predominantly, basically you would be painting in white if you painted in all of the birds. So I will be doing them one at a time, and I will be doing them individual colours. So one might be a greyish, one might be a purplish. You will see as I go through, just to define them a little bit. So slow and steady does it. Just there's no rhyme nor reason. The white feathers will be taken up into that. So, and I've made it a little bit hard to see the start and stop of some of the features, purely and simply because I painted over the edges, and I've also painted over where I've drawn. Haven't drawn it dark enough. But in saying that, if you draw it too dark, sometimes you actually have to go in and redo it a few times to get it right. So we'll probably do a lot of this throughout most of them, and get all of our base colours done. Now, not panicking too much because we are going over most of these colours. And the idea of doing this is purely and simply we're defining defining them purely and simply because we're bringing them in off our background. They will have the lights and darks added later on. At the moment, we're just trying to get the general shape in and go from there. As you can see, I came across that beak quite considerably. I don't know if I've added more in or what I've done to it, but it looks okay from here. We shall see when it's finished. I had these paints given to me, that particular one that I'm using there, and it's not Montmartre, and it's very, how should you say, it's very runny compared to the ones that I'm used to, so it's a little bit more difficult to use. I'm still getting used to it. It was actually given to me. I've obviously missed some of this out, and I'm just trying to put it back in again. Because I've taken quite a considerable amount away. I'm just literally trying to get it back in. And I realised after I'd done this that I had forgotten to draw in the eye, even though it was on the original template. I hadn't drawn it in. I'm like, wow, on this particular bird. So I will have to put it in as we go through. As you can see, I'm going, oh, where is it? There it is. Stop looking, I found it. Now it doesn't look much, but we will just do it one at a time. So as you can see, we're building the white. Now we're going to go over this all in white, purely and simply to get rid of the where we've come over it. Also, we're doing it because we need a base colour, and the base colour of these birds, believe it or not, is white. Yay! And we'll just go from there. So we'll start with some white and then pull the other colours in. Now, running the colours into one another, as you can see with the yellow. There will be other colours added into this. I am essentially using leftovers from another one, and I do tend to use my finger a lot for smudging. As we go further into it, you'll see that I do tend to use, when I want to soften something and get the colours to actually go together, I tend to use my finger. And I realise that it's no fun watching me paint, but you've got to have something to follow. And we don't tend to make this too neat. However, like I said, we do tend to get a little bit of coverage and smudge it. And the reason we smudge it is to make it look like it's actually coming out of the background. If I don't smudge it in, it doesn't look the part. Alright. Now we get to play and do a little bit of the colour that we're putting in. Now again, in case you haven't heard me say it before, we use water to actually get it to smudge a little bit. Water helps it flow. It also gives it a little bit of a smudge. And as we're still got the white, which is fairly moist, shall we say. It's not dry, therefore the colours are more or less smudging into them. It's making a little bit easier to see. Now there will be some, obviously, that will be darker than others, some areas, but we need to define what's happening. I have somebody else painting alongside of me, and they are taking bits and pieces off the table. Slow and steady does it, because we need to make sure that we've got all the markings in the right places, and we need to have a little, it's got to look like it's going in the right direction, the feathers and etc. are going in the right direction. Now we're not worried too much about putting in all the individual feathers and all the individual stuff. We just want to make it look the part. And we don't want to get too carried away. I'm going to keep this as simple as is humanly possible for you guys, because if we don't, it becomes more difficult and you don't even attempt it. You never know what you can do. You've got a little bit of blue-grey coming in there. A little bit of blue-grey coming in the back section. And over the top, defining it. Just trying to define the shadows. Obviously it has a little bit of a shadow around its eye. We can't have the beaks too perfect, so we've got a little bit of fur running around the beak, because it's part of the bird. going to do the top bird next and try and define it a little. Separate it from the other bird in the middle. And we're pretty much going to do the same thing. We're just going to put a base coat of white in and define it. Separate it from the other bird. And then we're also going to colour that one in. It will be slightly different colours to the other bird as a way of defining it. And some of where you've gone over the other colours actually gives it a little bit of texture. Where your background fits into there, which is good. I'm using a fairly small brush to get around all of this. There are some bigger brushes, as you would have seen me use for the background, etc. And there are little brushes which I tend to use more for the detail work and getting around things, because we put a lot of the details in. And this, despite the fact that it's A3, is not really that big. I'm just cutting out bringing it in, cutting around the edges. Cutting out some of the background. I realise you can't see what I'm doing, but you get a general idea of where I'm going with it. Colouring in some of the background, trying to get rid of the excess marks, just leaving white, which is the basis for the cocky. Putting in a little bit of it, coming down the back. Not too much, just enough to give you the feeling that there is something there. Okay. Been and wash the brushes. So going back to the purple, we're going to put a little bit of that in to define it. Got a lot of that colour coming in around the front. And because I put too much water in, you can actually see I've had to switch fingers to try and get some of that out. So this is not quite the same colour. We've actually got it lightened with some of the other colour. I'm just trying to bring it in, make it a little bit of purple, a little bit of the flesh tone. bringing in some of the feathers the way that they would look. Going around the edges with some white, trying to define the eye fraction. Oops, forgot to do it on that one too. Coming back in and doing bits and pieces on that one, and little bits and pieces on that one. Okay, time for the last bird. We're going to attempt to fill that one in white, make it look the part. Put our base colour down and get that all happening. Get rid of the other colours that are in there. A little bit too much on my brush, obviously. Putting it off. The good thing is it's coming down nice and even because the other birds are already in. It defines it for us. Thing is, white covers all of my mistakes. Put that in and do the background, and then realised, oops, not meant to be there. And I will be able to bring this in around the beak too, which is something else that we need to be able to do. Because I've got some white patches that I need to fill in around his beak and bring that down a fraction so that it actually looks like that's where it ends. So where I haven't really coloured in and where the open patches are, we need to bring the bird's feathers down and like I said, just we'll probably smudge some of those in as well, which would be good. Not really too worried about where they are. Oh, you can see that I've actually we go. Okay. Right, we're making a light grey by the looks of it, but we've used a little bit of the blue grey that we've got there, and we're making a lighter colour of the shadows. Obviously the sun has come out. It's come round, you can see where I must have the door open. It's coming in the glass doors. A little bit of blue grey. This one's totally different colour to the others. Oh, a little bit of purple. Bringing that in. Actually, just a little bit of everything. The blue grey. Bringing that in. Around the eye. Not so much the purple. Looks like grey around there as well. Defining the eye. Putting some colour in. Oh, obviously putting some final touch-ups on it. The beak, making sure the beak is blending. Putting in the markings where they go, because the beaks usually are, well, the beaks definitely are in two sections. So we have the top part and the bottom part that goes in under it. Making sure that looking part do. A little bit of white, a little bit of grey, a little bit of water, all to make it look the part. There's all sorts of colours going in that, all sorts of blending, defining the eye a little better. Putting some highlights on the beaks. And that should be about it. Oh, that sun is horrific. Now we're just going to put some, I've had to get another palette because I've completely used that other one. Just going to put some different yellow in some of these. So we've got the dark and the light, giving it a little bit of contrast in colour. Obviously can't help myself, just got to do a few touch-ups. As you do. Sounds good. Looks good. That is part of the wing of that bird. Looking good for a finished picture. Excellent. I shall catch up with you guys next time. Bye.